This is Wen. Wen is a creative coder and the author of several projects on fxhash. I'm a fan of his work, and I also have the privilege to call him a friend. We often talk about code and generative art and what is happening now with art blocks and fxhash, so this video is an attempt to capture a bit of that. On the back of last week's chat with William, I asked Wen if he would be up for something similar, to which he kindly agreed, and this is how it went. I remember when I first heard about fxhash, it was in a text from you. Do you remember when you first heard about it? And why did it catch your attention?
Yeah, I think it was during one of the weekend. I was just browsing through the Twitter and I saw this FX hash thing, and it caught my attention, and I looked into that, and it turns out it's what like we talked about the art blocks a month ago, and I think we all really interested in this idea of using the token to generate the random, and then use those random as seed to create visuals. And then at that weekend, when I discovered this FX hash thing, and it turns out it is exactly what we always wanted to try. And so I was super excited. So I text you right away. I think you would be thrilled to find out this as well.
Yeah, so it was like art blocks, but we could actually participate straight away without going through the application
Yes,
process and waiting.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
and your first project, Circles, you published it just a few days after we talked about fxhash. Where did you get that from? Is it something that you already had in store?
Yeah, part of. I think I've done this circle thing years ago, and I think I posted on Twitter somewhere. And when I get into the FX hash the first time, I think I was really excited, and I just want to get something up to play. I mean, it's funny because all these sale thing doesn't come in the first place. I think the first idea or first thought I have is, oh, this is interesting. I want to try this random thing, using the token as a seed, and see how many different outputs that I can generate. Because we're all familiar with the art block project, and it's really amazing to see some of the project that has so much beautiful output, but in the same time keeping the variation. And so when I start like playing with the fxhash playgrounds, I just want to get something quick and then start trying out ideas. So I took this circle thing out and then rework a little bit on it, just trying to add more details. Also trying to create as many variation as possible. So I think it was quite, the turnaround is quite quick. The code was there. You just need to adapt to the FX hashing, and also like it was pretty straightforward, to be honest. Just replace the random with the random function it provides.
Now you have, I think, 8 projects on fxhash, so I don't know if you remember the interval between Circles and Threads, which was your second project, but I assume you already carried over some of the learnings of Circles to Threads. Do you still remember what you learned there, and what was the increment for the next
Yeah,
project?
yeah, totally. I think it was. Of course, I was really excited by the first project, and then see like go up online, and then there's some people start appreciate that. That's a huge like and rewarding moment. And so quickly I realized that the variation I have in the circles is not as much as I imagined. I mean, although like, I try to put more details in the circles, but I could see the composition or the layout of the circles. That's quite. It wasn't rich enough for me, at least. So I quickly like start the second project, which is the thread, and this time I think I was just excited about this challenge. It's the same challenge that trying to make as many variation as possible. And so I was really excited, and I start experimenting to put different layout or as many layout as possible in there, and just trying to keep the thing looks different from each other. And so I was really happy that I've done some experiment on this, because it used to just have like always like five like holes in the canvas. That was the time I trying to challenge myself, like is there any other options, is there any other thing that's could be interesting. So I started trying out, okay, what if we only have two instead of five, and if we only have two, like how do I choose the color? And I end up by choosing just analyze the color and then choose the brightest and the darkest, and then I think it come up like quite interesting, to be honest, like with all the composition, like with the two color and one small hole. That's probably the composition I enjoy the most. So I think it's really a learning experience for me, like from piece to piece, from the circles to the thread, and just trying to not just increase the variation, but also learning from like, yeah, how do I organize these compositions, and then how do I make them interesting, and also like trying to push as much as I can.
And do you remember what was the reception like for both for circles and threads?
I think the initial reception, it was okay.
Hmm.
I mean, it is, yeah. I got some appreciations, but it wasn't like super hyped or anything. And I'm not disappointed, but it's just it's interesting to see, and I probably, yeah, expected a little bit too much on those things, but it was great to see that, yeah, some people really enjoyed it, and then it was um, it was okay. I mean, of course, compared to the later projects, those ones didn't like sailed out like as quick as the recent ones, for sure.
Yeah, I think we can get to that maybe if we follow a chronological order, but it's already clear that we're talking about it in the past and after your more recent projects got more success, then people discovered the first projects,
Yeah,
and those sold out as well,
yeah,
right? So maybe continuing the chronological order. So the next one was Excursion, and that was quite different. It was more about typography and layout. And if I remember, we talked about it. It was one of the main topics we were talking about was the random and trying to tame the random to create
yes.
interesting compositions. I think, am I right in saying that that was the main drive behind that one?
Yeah, totally. I think at that time I still like, well, I am still like combating on like how to make these randoms looks good, and then how to make the composition looks interesting. And then I think excursion was the one that I really pay a lot of attention on the layouts. So I was trying like the grid layouts, and then how do I organize the character and the text, all those things. I remember I made these like 8 or 9 different compositions, and then choosing at the end choosing like 3 or 4 from them. And I think that's the sort of the beginning of like forming a habit, like, okay, think about the composition early in the project instead of at the end. Like, okay, start like, okay, this could be one composition, this could be another. It's like sort of like inverted or bring this earlier into the project. And I think it's a really interesting practice for me. And that does change a little bit from my other works after that. Is when I start like the idea of the composition is always there at the beginning, and once I reach like certain point, like the proof of concept, after that I start thinking about the compositions, like what are
Hmm.
other elements, and could I put them into different category, and then group them. That's the part change my creative process.
At this point, you are publishing projects very quickly, almost one every 2 or 3 days. So you're very prolific. And the next three, Hex, Maze, and Labyrinth, they had a similar theme. So you can see how they talk to each other. So can you talk about this connection between the projects and also perhaps the gradual steps of increment and how they improved after each other.
Yeah, I wouldn't say improve, but I'll leave this later. But yeah, definitely those three seems like a series to me. And I started with the hacks. It was just a simple idea that I want to draw a line without using the line, but instead using the dots. So that's the fundamental for all three of them. So if you look closely, like all the lines formed with dots instead of just a line. It creates some sort of texture feeling, and also it's really interesting when I spread the dots. So it's just I create a small tool so I can control how thick the line is and how much is spread out. That control the different look and feel for the line. So it started with the hacks. It's just a simple idea that, okay, I just want to put a gradient with these lines. But not with, at the beginning, it's not with the color, but with how spread the line is. And then I pick the hexagon as the basic geometry and with this experiment. And then I really enjoyed the result. And I was really excited, so I put it up there, and I was overwhelmed by the support and how many people enjoy this. And I was really, at that time I was just super excited about, I found this technique, and I think it's really interesting, and it generates a really unique look and feel. So soon after that, the maze is actually one of my old project. It's around the same time with the circles, like 2 or 3 years ago, and I just want to redo it. But this time with this technique, I discovered just using dots to create lines, and then throwing the randomness of how spread the line is, and then create a pattern. And also the pattern itself is really interesting. It's still hexagon shape for sure, but just like rotating them randomly, that make them like randomly connected, but not just within the hexagon. That's really interesting for me. I think these two are still, I think they're most my most appreciated projects so far. And I do feel like I really enjoy them as well. The last one, the Labyrinth, that I think I just, to be honest, I now look back to listing, I wish I had grouped three of them together. It feels like you said, it feels like one project. And I discovered this shape of Labyrinth, so it's actually using three, like, I don't know, like, how do you call that shape? It's not triangle. It's like a triangle, but cut off the top. And then you put them together. It's like a puzzle piece to create a triangle, and then use that triangle to fill the space. And also, like, I can, because the base shape is a triangle, I can control, like, if I want to divide them. So one triangle would become 4 or not. So that's the sort of the inspiration or the starting point of the Labyrinth. But to be honest, yes, I totally agree. It looks really similar to the previous two. And this is the thing I couldn't know, but I wish I could group them together, the three into one. But I think there's something interesting in there as well, because like I said at the beginning, for the circles and the thread it's okay, but it doesn't sell out like right away. And I was worried like people think, those are not interesting. So I start to bring down the number of the mints So I started with like 512 for circles and threads, and then but they don't sell it out. So I feel like, oh, maybe that's because people think that it's too repetitive. So I narrowed down to 128 for the hex and the maze. But those two, I think that they caught the attention, so they sold out like really quickly. And then I started thinking, okay, since people really enjoyed it, maybe next time I should increase the size of the pool. So the Labyrinth, I increased it to 256. But yeah, I think, well, it's hard to say like it's a mistake or not, but if I do it again, I probably won't put it that high because the variety in there is not bigger than hex or the maze.
I see, right. Yeah, I think at this point, I mean, I'm a collector, but at this point I couldn't mint any more of your work because they were selling out so fast. I was too late; they were all gone. Um, but I think you were improving your process, and the platform was also gaining momentum. So everything was moving at the same time. So probably those three reflect that, both on your side and what was happening with the community. And in terms of the technical side, are those Canvas 2D?
Yes, they are all Canvas 2D, yes. So with Hex and the Maze, I didn't think about WebGL at all. I just, because I started with Canvas 2D and I just go with it. However, when I started the Labyrinth at the first time, I was actually using WebGL because that allows me to have more points. So I really want to have a high density of points, but with really small points. That would give me more control, like how spread it is, and also I can start experimenting with if I have transparency on the dots. So it will, I think it will increase, or it would generate, it could generate a different result. So one of the experiment I do is in the Labyrinth. I think some of them would get I think I call it the blur age, is actually towards the end of the canvas. I just increase the spreading radius of the point to a bigger number, so it sort of like start like blowing out each other. And it was okay with the Canvas 2D, which is the final version, but with the WebGL version, because I have more points, it looks a bit more interesting, I would say. But the reason why I fall back to Canvas 2D is that I have problem to render that when I try to upload it to fxhash. I think there's some problem with the capture module. I just couldn't pass that, and I just keep getting errors, like 500 internal server error or sorts. And at the end, I was really frustrated, and I just, okay, let's try convert it back to Canvas 2D, and it works. So the final version I have on the fxhash is actually using Canvas 2D, but the original one is using WebGL.
Got it, right. And now on a different topic, because in between those projects you released another one which was more playful, and this one I know was 3D. It was the Rubik's Cube. So what was the idea behind that one?
I think it's more like a gift for me to the whole community, because I was overwhelmed, to be honest. I was really overwhelmed by the support I get from for hacks and the maze. And at that time, I just want to make something really interesting, fun, and then give back to the community. And so I had these Rubik's Cube things like long ago. And I was just thinking, yeah, it would be interesting, because since everything is random, I was really hoping to see a like randomly but completely solved Rubik's Cube. And so the idea is that it starts with a perfectly solved cube, and then you will get a number of random moves, and yeah, you might get the one that reverses perfectly all the steps, and you get the perfect solved one. But I think at the end, the closest one is 2 steps away,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's a shame we didn't get a perfect one, but I think that's close enough.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Well, how many editions was that?
It's 256. I was thinking about
256.
maybe throwing in more, but then I worry about what if like everyone gets a perfect solve cube. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but I assume the number of combinations of rotations in the Rubik's cube is bigger than 256. So I think you would be
Yeah,
safe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the other part, the other interesting part of fxhash, because yeah, it's random, and then yeah, you never know. Like someone might just get lucky and roll the perfect one.
True. Right. Back to more serious projects, let's say. We can talk about your latest one called Strands. Was that also Canvas 2D?
No, that one is WebGL. And
Right.
yeah, I think I really enjoyed working with Canvas 2D, but I start like itching, like playing with WebGL. I throw up a little experiment with particles using WebGL 2. At that time, I was under the impression that WebGL 2 wasn't supported, but I just want to give it a try, and it turns out it works. So I start like thinking about, okay, maybe it's time for me to experiment a little bit more on the WebGL part.
Nice. And how was the reception of that one?
Again, I think it was, yeah, I was overwhelmed again. I had some problems when I minted the first time. There's just again there's some like glitches in the when it generate the capture or the screenshot, so I had to fix that. I only realized that after I minted, and but it was disabled by default. I didn't enable it right away, and so I already, once I put it on there, I already see like people start talking about it on the Discord. But I was really worried about the capture, so I had to, yeah, I'm trying to fix it within a couple of hours, and also I don't want to keep people waiting. But yeah, I was overwhelmed again by the support. Like it's gone like in a matter of minutes, and yeah, it was it's a bit scary, to be honest.
Yeah. What about the overall scenario and this time that we're living now? We are creative coders. We were doing things like this before fxhash, before art blocks, and it was mostly for likes and retweets. No one was getting paid. Maybe some people were getting commissioned to do some more work based on what they were showing, but it wasn't a direct reward to the artist. And things are changing now. So I wanted to hear your take on how it is for you already. Has anything changed, and how do you see this going ahead?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. I remember that one of our earlier conversation about FX hash is like, yeah, it's going to be a great playground for us to try out ideas, but quickly it changed, not in a bad way, but it changed for me, because when I see the overwhelming support I get from all the people, like everything sold out in minutes, and then like I mentioned, it scares me. Uh, Now mint a project become stressful in a way, because I'm so worried about failing, that people might not enjoy my work this time, or there might be a bug in the code that some really bad result come out. So it does change a lot. Now I try to slow down my pace. Like you mentioned, I used to do it like every 2 or 3 days. I think it's too fast. So now I want to take my time, and then just put as much as I can on the project and try to put in more details as I can instead of just like rushing them out. And it's yeah, this is one of the biggest change for me. And the other part is, again, like we discussed, like we start this as a more like a playground, so we can try ideas and then having fun. We never think about the financial part, or at least when we think about it, it's not going to be something huge. It'll be okay. I can buy you lunch next time, like this. But now, seeing the support and the revenue that we get from it is crazy. It start like it become something that might be able to support a little bit for my finance. I am a freelancer, so I usually set a goal for each year. Like, okay, if I make to this goal, then the rest of the time is I can do I can work on my own stuff. And with this, it changed because now I I actually have more time now to work on my own stuff. That's amazing. That's one of the best feeling I have from this journey, even though it's only like I think about a month. But now I start feeling okay. I gain some freedom for my next year, and that's something really special. But of course, like it's hard for me to predict what's the future going to be, and I couldn't like 100% rely on this thing. But at least like it gives me maybe just a couple of weeks or a month freedom every year. That's already a blast.
Yeah, that's great. That's true. But perhaps we can talk about something that I saw on Twitter earlier today. So just to talk about the current topic, where well, you showed me the initial tweet where someone was suggesting, well, they were presenting a problem that artists are not able to mint their own projects because it sells out so quickly that they can't even uh, save a few editions for themselves. And there are perhaps two problems there. One is the artist being able to keep a few editions, and the other is the frenzy that happens where perhaps a lot of people, not just the artist, are not able to collect because there are some people who seem to collect everything really quickly. Um, I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the first thing is I never used to mint my own work. It's just I can totally understand why artists would do that. I think it's a great thing to keep a couple of your work, and then if you in this special occasion, then you can give it to someone else. I think it's really, really great. But for me, I didn't do that often or at all, so that doesn't become a problem for me. But on the second part of your question, I think yes, there's a lot of frenzy or hype going on right now, and just like I mentioned, it was really exciting to see this, like the overwhelming support. It is marvelous, but again, it put pressures on me. Is people buy things without knowing the outcome? That's a huge risk for me, and so I want to make sure everyone at least they would enjoy the thing they buy from me. It might not be the perfect piece, but at least they will enjoy it. I think as a creator, that's this hype is it yeah it's like a double blade. It's really good to have this, but also it generates pressures for me as well.
Yeah, there are some collectors just minting and then putting it straight away in the marketplace before it's even revealed. So it's almost like they never wanted it in the first place. But then this is part of the market as well. So, like you said, it's a double-edged sword. So we benefit. When I say we, I'm putting myself in the same category. I mean, you are the artist, so you benefit from it. But there's also kind of a negative connotation where you would probably prefer if people were buying because they wanted to keep it.
Yeah, totally. Again, there's some really sad moments like after the mint, people saying, "Oh, I really like this one, but I couldn't able to get one," and that was really uh, depressing for me. And I'm still trying to figure out what's the best way to set the number of pieces and also the price, because exactly like you said, people will flip it right away for higher value. Does this mean that I should put it a higher price for each piece, or is it just the natural market thing? There's just of course there are collectors, they're trying to make profit. That I can totally understand. It's a market, but for me, I'm still in the process of trying to figure out, if there's a solution or the right way of doing this. But also, I think I just trying to observe from others' experience, like how they set the price for their piece and how that set the number of pieces for their mint. I think it's still early. I mean, this platform is only a month old. So there's definitely a lot of things to improve, not just on the platform, but for at least for me as well. I'm still learning that how to set the right, or is if it's possible to set the right price and the number of the piece.
Yeah, I agree. It's a young platform and it's still in an experimental phase, so everyone is learning. The artists, the collectors, and the people creating the platform, of course. So curious to see where it's going to be in a year's time or later. Okay, my last question is about printing. So I enjoy collecting NFTs, but I also like to see them printed. I like to see them on my wall. Um, let's say if a collector of an NFT wants to have it printed, what would you say to them? Would you allow them to print it themselves, or would you be interested in sending them a print, a physical print, to their mailboxes?
Yeah, totally. I think I'm still old school, and this NFT thing is pretty new to me. And yeah, I enjoy prints. You can see it on my walls here, and I totally up for the print. And this is the other thing I was ex- experimenting. I try to make my piece like scalable in a way, and it is I think at the first couple of projects a little bit difficult because uh, it my difficulty is when I resize the canvas, and because for example for the hex and the maze, the numbers of the hexagons I need to put, it depends on the size of the canvas, and so at that time it was a little bit difficult for me to keep it like constant, so I end up just scaling the whole thing together. But now with the Labyrinth, I was experimenting different methods. So now when you resize, you should still like keeping the same pattern. And so that's the sort of like the preparation for print. I definitely enjoy print, and I definitely like, yeah, up for people if they enjoyed it and then just print my work themselves. That please go ahead. That would be great, and just put a picture on the social media. I like to see them. And for sending the print to people, yes, for sure. But I don't feel like I'm that a big deal at the moment. But yeah, some days maybe. But yeah, I definitely enjoy print. I think a lot of my project that I trying to put that texture feeling in it. That's because I really enjoy those like textures, and the printing is unique to me because it has this natural texture, the paper texture, well, with different paper you choose, and that every time I see my work print out, it just looks different, and I really enjoy that part, and then that's definitely something I will continue doing in the future.
That's very nice. I mean, you're a humble man and very talented, and I enjoy your work. I want to keep seeing more of it. So I know that you're already cooking something. You're working on something to release at some point. So looking forward to that.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking the time. It was a pleasure
Pleasure.
talking to you.
Sam.
Cheers, man.
Awesome. Cut, cut.